Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be spending some time on the Pacific Power 3150 AFX programmable power supply. We'll start the video by going over a little bit about the source. Then we'll move on to walking through some of the different testing capabilities using the software. Keep in mind, we've also done a video on the Pacific Power 360 AFX, which I'll put a link in the description below for. This video goes into a little more detail on some of the different connections on the front and the back of the unit, as well as selecting and modifying criteria from the front panel display. Both the 360 AFX and the 3150 AFX use the same unit design and are otherwise very similar, except the difference in power level. During today's video, we're going to be using the model 3150 AFX-2 AGC, and we're going to be using this in conjunction with our PPSC Test Manager software. We also have purchased the GUI for IEC immunity tests, as well as the DO-160 sequences. Let's go ahead now and let's start by walking through the front of the system. Here you'll find the front of the 3150 AFX. Let's go ahead and let's start from the left side and let's work our way right. The first thing you will notice is a series of connections just below the 3150 AFX label. And then just below those connections, we have our input power off and on switch. As we work our way right, we have a series of menu keys, the LCD display, and the soft keys. Finally, all the way on the upper right corner, we have our output off on button. Let's go ahead now and let's take a look at the back side of the unit. Here you'll find the back of the 3150 AFX. Now there's a few connections you're going to want to make to get the system operational. Let's go ahead and let's start in the upper left hand corner, and there we have a series of USB connections and our LAN connection. During today's video, we will be using the LAN connection to control the source via our computer. As we work our way right towards the middle of the unit, you will see a green output power terminal. And then all the way on the right of the unit, we have our AC input, and you can see we have 3 lines there. And then just below that, our ground stud. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the different capabilities this source has utilizing the software. Here you'll find the reference brochure for the IEC 61000-4 series of immunity tests. And we're going to go over this first page briefly. There is 6 pages that walk through each individual test and what this software can provide. However, we're just going to go over the first page for today's video. So you can see on the main page here, we have capabilities for IEC 61000-4-14, IEC 61000-4-17, IEC 61000-4-28, and pre-compliance for IEC 61000-4-27. And these are all done through the IEC immunity test software through the GUI, which we'll go through shortly here. Keep in mind additional capabilities are available for both IEC 61000-4-11 and IEC 61000-4-34 for dips and voltage variations with the EPTS series of switches, which we'll cover in a later video. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at the avionics capabilities. All right, here's the avionics compliance brochure, and you can see we have our available test standards on the left. You can see we have Airbus, Boeing, DO-160, MIL Standard 704, and MIL Standard 1399. For today's video, we're only interested in DO-160, so now let's go ahead and let's scroll to the corresponding page and take a look at that. All right, here you're going to find the matrix for DO-160. You can see on the document that the associated power groups are mentioned. We have single phase, 3-phase, and then we have our DC tests. You can see with the AFX series, the majority of the tests can be achieved. Some of these tests, especially the normal and abnormal surges, require additional equipment. However, for the majority of these tests and the associated sections, the AFX series can certainly achieve them. These matrices and the associated documentation are extremely helpful in determining if the Pacific Power unit can achieve the required tests and if it is compliant. If you're wanting to get more information and look through the brochures, you can check that out on the product page, which I'll put a link for the description below. Now let's go ahead and let's start up the software. Here you'll find the PPSC Test Manager, which we'll be using for today's video. We did a more general overview of the software with our 360 AFX video, so go ahead and check that out if you need to. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the different IEC immunity test options with our source. To do that and view those different requirements, click the drop down right next to the check mark, and you can see all the different IEC 61000-4 series of capabilities right there. Keep in mind some of these testing requirements will be pre-compliance or will have testing restrictions, such as IEC 61000-4-27, IEC 61000-4-11, and some others. It's always best to confirm compliance with the manufacturer or with the associated documentation if you do need a compliance solution. Let's go ahead now and let's select IEC 61000-4-17. Let's go ahead and let's select single phase. We'll go ahead and we'll select the 24 volts and we'll select the first one right there. Let's take a look now and let's spend some time on the test sequence menu. All right, here you're going to find our test sequence menu, and you can see right now we are on the objective tab. One of the great things about this Pacific Power software is the objective tab does provide a brief overview of this test. You can see right now we have our IEC 61000-4-17 standard there. We have our test level and our parameters, and then a little bit about the test in the notes section, and then some of the key data points right there. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at our preference tab right next to the objective tab at the top. This tab is going to allow you to change some of the different requirements. You can see right there we have our values and range, and then our report template. What we're going to do for today's video is we're just going to keep all the default values entered under the preference tab for the time being. Let's go ahead now. Let's take a look at the bottom half of our test sequence menu, which walks through the different steps. All right, so taking a look at the bottom half of our test sequence menu, we have a series of columns. We have step, description, value, comment, and result. These are great as it lets you know the step-by-step process that has been set up for this test sequence, and it also guides the user through the process. Now let's go ahead and let's hit the play button. And this is as if you're going to run the test. And you can see right now we have a user input menu pop up, and this is where you can enter some of the different values. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to leave those as the default values for now, and we're going to hit pass. And then we have our final user prompt right here, and this is just going to instruct the user to connect the equipment under test. All right, so we're not going to go ahead and we're not going to run the test today. Let's spend some time and let's look at some of the DO160 capabilities with our PPSC Test Manager. All right, so we went back to our PPSC Studio menu, and you can see the software splits the requirements into 4 different categories, some of which are unit-specific and some of which are not. Again, similar to the other IEC immunity testing capabilities, it is important to reference the documentation or reach out to the manufacturer to confirm compliance for particular tests. Let's go ahead now and let's take a brief look at an example of a test report. All right, here is the sample test report we did for IEC 61000-4-17. And you can see we have some of the data we entered. For today's video at the top, we just kept the default information there. And then we have our test sequence menu criteria as well as our preferences. As we walk through the test report, you will see it follows very closely the different steps from our test sequence. All right, so let's go ahead now and let's scroll down. Here we have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and it continues on. All right, that should complete the video today on the Pacific Power 3150 AFX. We began the video by talking a little bit about the unit with the connections on the front and the back. Then we moved to the different testing capabilities for both IEC 61000-4 series and DO160. Finally, we talked briefly about the software and running different tests. We hope this video has been useful, and please keep us in mind if you ever need to rent the Pacific Power 3150 AFX.